tutors, mentors, and the city with your host.com.
The City Tutors presents
Tutors, mentors, and the city
with your host.com.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Kevin.com Brown, and welcome to Tutors, Mentors, and the City. And y'all know how I like to do. I like to jump right in. So please, without any further ado, please give me a nice warm welcome for Mr. Andy Berry. Hey! Andy, welcome to the show. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what, I throw a lot of people off with this interview format, but I'm gonna tell you, I after the pandemic, after I had COVID for 90 days, I lost my memory for 10 days. Like, I missed my birthday. The only reason I knew I had a birthday is because I opened up my phone 5 days after my birthday and I saw all these unread messages. I had 51 unread messages, and I'm like, why are so many people texting me? And I open them up and it's like, happy birthday, man, happy birthday, dude. And I'm like, wait, I had a birthday? Like, it blew my mind. So when I came out on the other side of the 90-day ordeal, my view is that our world is upside down, that we celebrate the wrong things. We celebrate people for shooting a basketball, catching a football, running real fast, but we don't celebrate real people on the front lines of making this, this community, this society a better place. So that was my motivation for this podcast, right? Now, that being said, I have a cousin named Andy. His real name is Anderson. What is Andy short for?
Andy, it's boring. It's short for Andrew.
Andrew, okay. So, Andrew Berry.
You got it.
Who are you?
Who am I? I think it's a tough question. I mean, that's that standard interview. Like, where do we start? I was just talking to a student about this the other day. Like, where do you start with that? But I think for me, where I would start is, I was the first in my family to graduate college. And it's tough out there. Like, when you are a first-gen student and a first-gen professional, like, adapting to that new world. And, I think that's where I came to co-op. But I think where I'm at is I'm someone that wants to just, like, ensure that the next generation, or this generation, all people, this generation, next generation, last generation, that everyone can succeed and achieve the highest amount of their goal and their dream as possible.
Well, it's interesting. My daughter graduated college before me, but she wasn't the first by any means. Her mother graduated college. My sister graduated college. But first gen in the family, how do y'all celebrate? What's the deal? Do y'all have a parade? Do y'all make a trophy? How do you celebrate being the first one?
Maybe just a beer. No, but, I think just, like, remembering, and, like, I think for me, as I've gotten older, like, connecting with my parents and, like, talking about, like, actually, like, what they did to support me that I think I took for granted when I was younger, to be quite honest. And then, paying it forward, to be quite honest. Like, I think that's, we celebrate by lifting each other up. And that's where, I've been lucky to work with a lot of great colleagues and a lot of, like, young mentors. And I worked abroad internationally for a while. But I'm pleased to say, like, I connect a lot with a lot of my old students. So I think the way I celebrate is, like, giving it forward.
Students. So you teach. What do you teach?
I used to teach. So
okay.
I was in the Peace Corps for 2 years, taught English.
What's that like? What? Tell me about that. Let's stop for a second. Tell me about the Peace Corps.
For sure. So I'm
gonna cut you off a little bit. I've only heard about it on TV shows and movies. I don't know anyone that's ever done it and talked to me about it.
I mean, there's always a first for everything.
Let's go.
So I spent 2 years in the Kyrgyz Republic, often known as like Kyrgyzstan. And so for anyone who's listening in, who might not be aware, it's like basically to the west of China, like probably 3 hours flying north from India.
Wait, how old are you when this happens?
I was 25. 25.
Does this have any cultural relevance to you? How'd you pick that
I got assigned it.
assignment? Okay.
So Peace Corps, what they'll do, or at least when I applied, is you have some say, but they'll kind of let you they'll assign you to a place and you can kind of like choose it. And when I saw it, I'm like, yeah, sounds great. Like I'm just ready to experience something new.
And what's the language over there?
So a lot of people speak Russian, but most of the locals speak Kyrgyz, which is like very similar to Turkish.
And were you able to, did you know those languages before going there?
Before going there, no. But one thing I'll say about Peace Corps is they do really good language training. And, I think within 2 months, I was pretty serviceable in the language. I don't know if I'm serviceable now. I mean, that was 6 years ago, but definitely a couple of it still is out there.
Really? That sounds so cool. Now, when I hear lands that have a stan at the end, I'm always thinking unstable government, war-torn society. Is that what it was?
No, it was actually so Kyrgyzstan's like probably the most stable democracy in that area of the world in Central Asia. And it was, I mean, like certainly like the standard income is pretty low. Like it is a developing country, but I would say it was very stable. Like I felt very safe in my area. And I know a lot of other volunteers. I mean, we were all over the country, but my area felt always kind of like home in a way.
And they send you out there to do what?
I was teaching English.
Teaching English.
Yeah.
What ages?
What ages was that? So that was like 5th grade to like seniors in high school.
And how serious is your syllabus? Like, are you just trying to, America, movies, John Wayne, or are you really giving them like an English course, like college level? What kind of English is this?
So it depended. So not gonna lie, for those 5th graders, yeah, it was a lot of like basic stuff, and then like let's connect it with the culture and things like that. After that, I would say by the seniors, like it did get a little more like, okay, let's get advanced. Especially some of them did have, dreams to go somewhere else, either US. One of them I know is in Dubai and has been working there for like 5 years now. So like English for her was like, she was like, I need to know everything. Teach me everything. I'm like, sounds good. Let's do it. But I honestly, for me, I think a lot of it was like the cultural aspect too. And like also just, I think showcasing not only like American culture and American entertainment, but like also like American diversity, to be quite honest, because I think there are like a lot of perceptions about like what is American from outside. And I'm like, that's not true. Like America is a very diverse place. So, yeah.
Okay. So every movie, every TV show I see where a young American goes to a foreign land, they either, fall in love with a local or they get swept up in some criminal conspiracy enterprise and are running for their lives for the rest of the movie. Did you have any experiences like that?
No, unfortunately, not unfortunately. No, just neither of those happened. I mean, I was pretty tight with my like host family, so like I think like I still have connection there because I stayed with like a local family in my village. But yeah, no, nothing too crazy. I think the craziest thing is that like, so I'm from Pennsylvania originally, but like lived a lot of my life in like New Jersey and New York, and I had never experienced an earthquake before, and that was the first time I ever experienced an earthquake.
Really?
So, yeah, it wasn't a crazy one, but like it was an earthquake for sure.
So I'm imagining that the buildings aren't as sturdily built as they are in some places here in the States.
I mean, a lot of actually like concrete is what I'll say. Like there, it's actually pretty solid.
Okay.
But I mean, what I'll say is like I had a wooden door and it was like 2 a.m. and it's like shaking all of a sudden. I'm like, is someone like trolling me? Like someone like knocking on my door a bunch? And then I realized my chair was moving. I'm like, okay, it's not someone messing with me.
I've been in California and I've experienced earthquakes a couple of times out there. Once I was in the shower started. But the thing is, I'm from New York. I live right next to the fire department. The subway goes by and the whole building shakes. Those are very similar to earthquakes, right? Except,
Yeah.
you don't feel the panic, right? You don't feel the thing that happens in your mind when the train goes by. But when you're in California and there's no train and the building's shaking, you start going, oh, wait a minute. Is this going to hold up? What do I do? Where do I run?
Yeah. I mean, what I'll say is like if you're trying to catch that train and running, maybe you are feeling that terror.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So you said you're originally from Pennsylvania.
Yep.
All right. That born and raised?
Born and raised. Yep.
Public school, private school?
Public school.
Public school for the whole, from first to 12th.
First to 12th, the whole time.
And then you, what was your growing up like? Siblings?
So I have older siblings, but they're from like my mom's previous marriage. Now I view them as just like siblings, like it's none of that step or half or anything like that. Like they're sisters. But yeah, like and actually, yeah, now that I think about my sorry, just kind of blanked out for a second. My oldest sister like lived with us. And basically, her niece was with us as well. And my niece is 6 years younger than me. So in a way, she was like a little sister in a way.
Yeah. Okay. What was your upbringing like? Fun? Were you bullied as a kid? I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm 6'5". I'm over 300 pounds. I have 2 black belts. I was bullied horribly as a kid.
Really?
Horribly. No one would ever guess that. And I never even acknowledged it. Like it was just a part of my growing up. But when I look back and thought about a lot of the things that I went through with my head was too big for my body. My feet was too big for my body. My glasses were too thick. My skin was too dark and I was bullied brutally, but I didn't internalize it. Right. I didn't feel the victim. So it was me talking to other people to just get an awareness to say, wait a minute, I think I was bullied back then, but I didn't recognize it at the time. Did you have, or were you the popular kid? What kind of kid were you?
I definitely was not a popular kid. I mean, I wound up being prom king my senior year. So, wore a white tuxedo and a top hat. Awful decision. Looking back, I mean, I should have just gone for the Dumb and Dumber look, to be quite honest. Like, but no.
What did you do? What did you do to earn that distinction?
Campaigned.
Campaigned.
I had a friend, and we're like, you know what? We should be prom king and queen, and we're like, let's do it. And
nice. Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that like, the standard amount of bullying, like I was kind of honestly more of like a theater kid. So I did a lot of, musicals, chorus, played tennis, but definitely was not super popular or, I would say macho either. Like definitely not macho.
Okay. So, you leave high school in Pennsylvania and go where? Where do you go to college?
So I mean, this might be a hot take for the New Yorkers listening here, but I went to Northeastern, so like I'm a big time Red Sox, big time Celtics fan. Like I'm all Boston when it comes to fandom. But no, I went to Northeastern University, studied international relations, just because like I was always really interested in like that cultural aspect. Like even going back to Peace Corps, like obviously that's something I lived, but growing up, I always had that interest too.
Okay, so what was that? That's not much different, right? From Pennsylvania to
Yeah,
about the same type of communities, right?
yeah, for the most part. I mean, I think it was just my first time like living in a city.
Uh-huh.
Because my area in where I'm from in Pennsylvania is like more suburban.
Yeah, in my mind, growing up, Philadelphia was Pennsylvania to me. That was all of Pennsylvania. My one of my dear friends just bought a house last year in Wilkes-Barre,
Okay. Yep.
Pennsylvania. And it's different. It's different over there from Philly for sure.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, Pennsylvania is big. It has mining. Weren't there mines, coal mining or something in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, actually near Wilkes-Barre. Like that's like where that whole area was. Now, I think by the time I was growing up, like that wasn't really a thing. But no, and I will say for me, like all my parents are from Jersey. I live in Jersey now. Like we're hardcore Jerseyans, so like for me, when I think about like the city, and like I think this like the thing I've always thought about is like where your geography is like depends on what you call the city. But for me, the city was always New York. It wasn't Philly. Like, yeah, Philly was chump change.
And what'd you say your major was in college?
International relations.
International relations. Okay. And Jersey, what part of Jersey? North, south?
So I live in Jersey City right now.
Jersey City. Okay. So I relate. I break Jersey down in my mind as exits on the turnpike. That's the only way I know it, right?
Totally fair. Or the GSP or the Garden State Park.
I don't get the GSP. Like I get on it, I'm lost. As soon as I get on it, for whatever reason, I'm lost. Because the numbers are too big. 100 and exit 152. Yep. Why do you have so many exits?
Yep.
What's the deal? But Jersey City, okay. That Jersey City is hardwood floors, high ceilings. I like Jersey City.
It's pretty chill. Chill.
Okay. So with that major, what did it prepare you to do?
I mean, I'm not sure much because, I did 4 years and actually no, 4.5. So like, I had those internships, like, we talk about always like with students and young people, like go for those internships, like get that experience. And, I think I had good experiences doing that, but I left college and I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And I finished in 2010, which was like the height of like that, or maybe not the height, but like still feeling the impacts of the recession. Like the job market was terrible. And all these smart people are saying like, go get a master's degree. And I'm like, that's a pretty good idea. Like, I trust these people. But what they don't tell you is that you shouldn't go for a master's degree in the same thing you studied in undergrad. Because, really? Yeah. And so I went for a master's in international relations afterwards at Seton Hall. And, once again, great experience, taught me a lot about myself, had good connections, but left that and had no idea what I wanted to do as well.
Somebody told me don't go. I'm in a master's program now.
All right.
And I'm doing it backwards. I left college in '88 and came back 30 years later and fell in love with my major. Mm-hmm. So I continued to pursue the major. So somebody told me don't get your master's at the same place you got your bachelor's. Somebody did tell me that. But I don't know if anybody ever told me don't get your master's in the same thing you got your bachelor's in. I think you're the first person that ever.
Maybe that's just my opinion, but like I felt like, I got that same advice about like don't go to the same place. And I actually remember I asked a recommendation from one of my professors at Northeastern, and he said to me, he's like, Andy, loved having you in class. He's like, don't come back. He's like, you're not gonna learn anything new. And I'm like, okay, that's a fair point. Like,
really?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think for me, it's like that, those candid advice that I've gotten at times is just like, that's what stuck with me. I remember that like 12 years later now. So,
That's an interesting point. I tell you, throughout my since I call myself a scholar now as I try to pivot and assimilate into higher education. I've been away for 30 years, right? So as I try to assimilate, I keep my mind open. I try to comprehend, because I'm no longer the smartest guy in the building or the smartest guy in the room or the smartest guy in the conversation, right? So I'm always staying open to learn new things. So when you didn't tell me that as advice for me, you just said it, but I'm taking it as advice for me. Like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't be majoring in the same thing that I got my bachelor's in. Maybe because the classes are redundant to a great degree. I'm gonna be. You got me. Give me something to think about now.
well, hopefully I'm not dissuading much. I mean, I think for me, it was just like, I think the issue was that like, I left my undergrad and I'm like, I want to help people. Like I've always wanted to be in like the nonprofit sector and like work to like help people, like, and it took me a while to figure out how. But I left undergrad and I'm like, okay, I don't know what the next step is. And I think that's where like going into the same degree without that clarity destroyed me. Because if I would have known like, okay, I want to do exactly this and like been passionate about this exact field or like subset, I think that's where it would have helped. So, yeah.
Okay. So you went to Seton Hall, majored in the same thing, and then what?
Well, so I'll just say this: Go Pirates! Definitely still a big Seton Hall fan.
And Seton Hall is where? Seton Hall is
South Orange, New Jersey.
South Orange. Okay.
Yeah. Like okay. I said, Kevin, it all comes back to Jersey for me.
Nice.
Yeah. And so, but afterwards, I was underemployed for 2 years. And so all throughout my master's, like I was working at Barnes & Noble, love books, all that. Like it was like kind of a dream part-time role for me.
Right.
But then afterwards, I couldn't find a job. And like, it's not for lack of trying. Like I was sending out those applications. I was going to resume workshops. I was trying to volunteer. And, and I think I will say like, my organization right now, Co-op, like we work to like solve that underemployment. And that's where it resonated with me because like, I felt so much of my worth and like my own self-worth tied to my ability to find a job.
Mm.
And like, I just felt so down for those 2 years. And so like, for a couple year or so, I was still just working at Barnes & Noble and it was fine. Like it got the job done. But once again, like a person I worked with, like an older woman who I had bonded with, like I was sharing, I'm like, yeah, I might apply for this like full-time role at Barnes & Noble. And she like literally looked at me and she's like, the hell you are. Like, she's like, you just got your master's in international relations, like go use that. And like, that was what I needed. I'm like, wow, like complacency. And so, yeah, that helped clear some stuff up for me. And then lo and behold, I started the Peace Corps application again. And that's how I wound up in Kyrgyzstan.
Right. So would you, does the hell you are qualify as mentorship?
I would say it absolutely qualified as mentorship because, I worked at a mentoring organization. I mentor for a while. And I always like to think like mentoring doesn't have this like one size fits all approach. And like, for me, that is exactly what I needed at that moment. Like I needed someone to like kick me in the butt and say like, nope, don't get complacent. Keep striving, keep pushing. So yeah, like absolutely like mentoring, it all comes down to mentoring. And luckily I had two like good mentors when I was at Seton Hall who also helped facilitate that like you need to go abroad and like get some experience, even if it's not in the US.
So that's so fascinating because again, me returning to academia,
Mhm.
it comes with an expectation, right? You have your own preconceptions.
Yeah.
So I come in and I think probably like a lot of the young students, that it's cookie cutter, right?
Mhm.
Mentorship is, when you do go to college, they give you a class schedule,
Mhm.
they give you a syllabus, they give you assignments, they give you the rubric for how you're going to be graded, and you think that's how life's going to be.
Yep.
And you go out into the real world, and there's no syllabus for the real world. There's no rubric for how you're going to be graded. There's nothing. there's,
Mhm.
there's
And you find out no one taught you how to budget when they should have taught you how to do that in high school. So
it's an absolute. This, now that I think about it, again, it's frightening out there. I don't know. I'm retired now. I'm retired. I was fortunate enough to be able to, during the pandemic, be able to file for early retirement.
right on.
But now that I look back, it's a scary world. The things you do when you're young
Yep.
and you're too naive to know that you shouldn't be able to accomplish those things. That's the beauty of being young.
Absolutely.
You know so little. You don't know you can't do that, and then you go and you do it. Ain't that something?
Yep. It's that fearlessness. And it's yeah.
So the company Co-op, that's what you called it.
Yeah. So I Co-op is where I am currently at. I'm featuring it on my shirt. It's right there.
What does Co-op do?
So, Co-op, basically our mission is to overcome underemployment through peer connections and digital skills. And so we see that for so many recent college graduates, there's this promise of like the American dream that, education leads to opportunity. And for some people that happens, but for the vast majority, it doesn't. And so what Co-op seeks to do is we connect recent bachelor's degree grads with our digital apprenticeship programs, and more importantly, with networks. Because oftentimes, access to good jobs is determined by who you know. And if we don't change that, like our future for a lot of underrepresented groups is just going to be the same as the past, where a lot of companies and a lot of organizations are just still tapping into the same networks, which are often not very diverse networks, for the same talent. And that's where Co-op steps in to help facilitate these connections and community building for a lot of underrepresented groups, to launch their careers and launch a meaningful career.
So, and what do you do for Co-op?
So I am the associate director of recruiting for New York City. So Co-op is based in New York, Miami, Chicago, Los Angeles, San Jose, and San Fran. But I lead our New York City recruiting.
And recruiting what? What are you recruiting?
So we are recruiting the basically recent bachelor's degree holders. So anyone who has graduated with a bachelor's degree in the past 10 years is eligible to apply for our program. And basically, so we are, focused a lot on like recent college grads, both within New York, but also in like the surrounding areas. And so, we've partnered a lot with like a lot of the CUNY schools and a lot of similar like community-based organizations in the area.
And the program, what are the dimensions of the program?
Yeah, so our program is a 200-hour program. It takes place over 4 months. And so, we acknowledge a lot of our students still need to work. So a lot of them are still like working either full-time jobs or part-time jobs. But a lot of times, it might be working at Starbucks, or it might be working at Barnes and Noble, or a job that doesn't necessarily require a bachelor's degree and doesn't necessarily lead to that upward mobility. And so our program is run 4 nights a week in the evenings, and we basically divide it into 3 main pillars. And so of those 200 hours, 100 is dedicated to the head and like the head skills. So that's building skills in data analytics and digital marketing, which are our 2 fields based in New York, and then business development and sales, which is also in our California team. After that, we have 100 extra hours, and people are wondering, like, what are those 100 hours going? And I'm like, let me tell you. So there's the 3 H's. So the head is the first one. The third one, but this is the one I actually like to introduce second, is hustle. And so hustle is like, that professional development. And that's resume writing, interviewing, interview prep, LinkedIn, cover letters. Basically, anything you can think of when it comes to like actually preparing people for the job search, that's what that hustle is. And then finally, the final 50 hours is dedicated to the heart, because it's so much of that community aspect is so key and so crucial to help develop. But then also we acknowledge like a person's job and their career are not the sole determinants of who that person is. And a lot of people are carrying additional challenges, or might be dealing with imposter syndrome or struggling with confidence and things like that. And so that's where our heart workshops, but also our social work team steps in to help ensure that our co-opers can, not only be the best professional they can be, but the best person they can be.
Okay, so you guys have a venue? Where do these classes take place?
Currently, for now and for the spring cycle, it is so our spring program will be February 16th to June 8th. Both our fall and our spring are virtual, but
Okay.
we know that like it's great to always connect in person, so we do try and like help facilitate some of those in-person connections too, but usually more in like fun settings.
Yeah, and so is it like a school, like tuition based? Is what? How does a person, you recruit me? Okay, you recruit me. How do I afford this? How do I get access to it?
Great news. Completely free.
Really?
Yes. So our program is entirely free. The only thing that costs is time. And so, we believe it's a great opportunity. I mean, to call it out, like going back to my experiences, like this is something I wish I knew about and like had access to. But we do expect our co-opers to like commit their time and, and attend all the sessions so that they can actually like maximize and grow their career through the skills we're teaching them. And so it is, entirely funded. They don't have to worry about paying a thing.
That is really cool. Okay. How does someone find it?
Yeah. So, I mean, one, they can always go to our website, which is www.coop. That's COOP careers.org. I should have said that all at once. So that's coopcareers.org. And so we have an interest form there where someone can like start their application process. But additionally, we work with a lot of organizations and a lot of schools to bring like different recruiting events or workshops around the city.
Okay, it sounds very similar. Sounds similar end goals to City Tutors, except City Tutors is not just for college. It's older, and it's not a planned out program. It's what we call it, self-paced. We call it self-paced.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, so how long have you been working there?
6 months. 6 months.
6 months. In 6 months, what do you have? How old is the company?
Company is 8 years old. Yeah, I believe it's 8 years as of like 2 or 3 months ago.
Does it have any like super star success stories? Like, does it have those types of moments?
Yeah, so I mean, that's the thing is, I'll share the general like stat first,
Yeah.
but then there are definitely some like highlights out there as well. But so basically, after a year, or a year out of the program, 4 out of 5 of our alumni are fully employed and earning a median salary of 50,000, which when it's coming from their median salary beforehand, which is 15,000. So that's 15 to 50 in just a year. That often leads to that, like, just like huge great outcomes for those for those people. And then we've actually seen that most of our co-opers, and so like our co-op, those are the people in the program, and then the alumni, their continued upward mobility doesn't stop there. And within 5 years, that median income has actually jumped to 75,000.
Okay. And you work from home now?
Yes, we are. I am working from home right now. But we've had some connections, which has been nice in person.
Right. And so how did you, this is the company Co-op sounds incredible. And meeting people like you who are on the front lines of helping young people, it's so rewarding. That's why we do podcasts like this, right?
Thank you.
Now, but back to you. 6 months. What were you doing before 6 months ago, before you started working for this place?
Yeah. So I'll tell twofold. So I worked at an organization called iMentor, which works to build like mentoring relationships between college educated mentors and high school mentees. I believe there's actually some connection with City Tutors and iMentor, so probably old news to mention that. But I worked at iMentor for 4 years. Started in their high school program and then basically worked into their post-secondary program, working with like a lot of the mentor-mentee pairs after they transition to college or not college, or into like all the professional pathway programs.
Mm-hmm.
But then during the pandemic, so my partner is a physical therapist. She went back for her doctorate of physical therapy during the pandemic. And, it really inspired me, and just like seeing her commitment to education, like continuing her education. And then I was just thinking, I'm like, you know what, like I have these goals of, nonprofit management, nonprofit leadership, like what's the connection? And so I actually decided to go back to get a master's again. So I like to joke I didn't learn my lesson the first time, but to that point from earlier, like I felt I had more clarity this time, which was great. And so I've actually been at NYU now for nonprofit management for the past year and some change.
Really? NYU?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and nonprofit management, that's cool. How do you afford NYU? Is this what are you, do you have a trust fund? What's the deal?
I do not have a trust fund. So one of the best advice I got when I was younger was like, when possible, do stuff on someone else's buck. And so that, not a trust fund, so not that type of buck. But because I was in the Peace Corps, I actually applied for a scholarship and was able to get like half funding for all of NYU. And so, and so that helped. And that kind of set it off as like the opportunity. And after that, like it was, I think the opportunity was worth it, that I'm like, I'll figure out a way to cover the rest, whether it be loans and things like that. And in a way, it already paid dividends because, I went to NYU to build my network and like advance my career. And I connected with Co-op by the person I sat next to at the NYU orientation, we like struck up a conversation about like youth development and mentorship and like digital skills. And lo and behold, when she posted this job, like because it's where she used to work, I'm like, sounds great. Let's apply. And the rest is history.
That's very cool. That's very cool. And that is the organic way that life seems to work, ain't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, that's cool. So how impactful was the pandemic on your life? Did you know anybody that had this COVID-19, or did you catch it? What was your deal?
I did catch it. I mean, I think I caught it more COVID 2022 because I caught it. The first time I caught it was earlier this year, literally right in the middle of like finals week. So that was a great finals week, was having that with COVID. But no, I think so. Like I shared, my partner is a physical therapist, and she was like a frontline staff, like as a medical professional. And so, I was always, me personally, I was not very affected by it, especially just like hearing so much of like the impacts to like so many people I knew, like my friends, family, like the students I worked with. And so, yeah, like I consider myself lucky that like, we did not really have that much of an impact, but having a healthcare professional as a partner and like obviously like someone you're so close to, like it was nerve wracking. And so I think that's where it really affected. But, what I'll say is that, and this is where I'm going to transition to a slight joke, but that first time I came back into the city, because I did not visit New York City for like 8 months. And I went on the R train and I'm like, why is it so clean? Like, what is this? Because
it was the R train, not the 2 train.
Fair point.
Okay, so your classes, your NYU classes, they're all online. They're in person.
In person now. I had a couple online, like an econ class, stats class, but I think for most of those conversation-based classes, it's more beneficial to be in person.
Okay. How many times are you in class now? Or you finished the program? No,
I still have about a year left. So I'll be finishing next December.
Okay. Well, we're about on the same track. When this semester ends, I'll have 9 credits into a 30 credit program. Right. Okay. So I have about a year. All right. And as a matter of fact, I have a class today. I have a class later on today. Yeah. And the grad school is down in the financial district.
Okay.
And I don't take public transportation. I don't ride the R train. I used to, but I swore off public transportation a few decades ago.
Okay.
And that comes with a cost. It's $50. It's $50 to park for my 2-hour class. So I just in my mind, I just count that as tuition, right?
Yep.
But the experience of going into the building is exciting. I like. Now, do you need cleared for to get into the building? Do you have to show ID to walk into?
Yeah. No, and it used to be that we have to like do this like daily like COVID screener pass, and like thankfully for this semester they just changed it so it's like an Apple Wallet thing I can just show. But nothing beat the stress of getting into the class and being like, oh God, I have to do this now and I don't have Wi-Fi, and like
I have that problem. I had that problem 2 weeks ago. The first problem I had is I live up in the Bronx.
Mm-hmm.
And when the semester first started, I would drive, and it'll take me a little over an hour to get to class.
Okay.
I was late 2 weeks in a row about 3-4 weeks ago because it would take me 2 hours to get to school. I kept running into traffic. I don't know if the president was in town. I don't know what was happening, but I was a half hour late 2 consecutive weeks.
Oof.
And I went so far as I stayed around after the second time because I was embarrassed. I'm paying for school out of pocket. All I want is an A because I want my scholarships too. I want to apply for scholarships. I want to get all my scholarships. So you have to have an immaculate GPA.
Yep.
So I stayed around to have a conversation with the professor. Like, listen, I'm real serious about this class. I don't want you to hold that tardiness against me when it's time to be graded because an A- ain't gonna cut it, right? I don't want when they put a minus in front of my A, I feel like I failed. I'm ready to negotiate now. Give me some extra credit or something. But I like the process of getting out the house and going someplace. But at City College, we have to show, to get into the building, we show our ID.
Okay.
And then to get into the floor, we show our vaccination thing.
Why can't they just do it at the same time? That's so annoying. You have to do it twice.
It's like I don't understand it. I still don't understand it. Right, is the bottom line of what. That's why I'm sharing it with you. Because what's the NYU process? What do they do there?
So yeah, now it is just you got your ID, and I think there was something that like you basically had to fill out before the semester started, and then you can like add it as like a Google Wallet or like an Apple Wallet, and then just kind of scan it from there.
Do they do random? They do random testing?
Nope, not as far as I'm aware.
Well, I get random tested. I get the email that I'm random tested every semester. I have to go back and take a test for the whatever.
You know what? That reminds me. I got randomly tested last semester. So you're
Okay.
right. Yeah, I just forgot about. Maybe I blocked it out.
Yeah, they got me both. They got me both semesters, like random. Like, yo, am I the only guy you testing?
You're like, is this random? Like,
okay, so that's a second master's.
yep, second master's. Public.
I know people that have 2 masters, and a couple of them. One guy said to me, he said, the reason I went for a second master's is because I didn't think I was prepared to go for a PhD. Did you have any thoughts like that? Like, don't you think a second master's might be redundant? Like, why not just go for a PhD?
I think because I'm not really interested in research at this stage of my life. I mean, I would love to put that DR period in front of my name. Like that'd be great. That'd be so cool. But I think for me, it was just that I wanted to build up skills that I felt like I wasn't getting or I wasn't able to access in like my job or in my like day-to-day like networking and things like that. And so I think since it wasn't necessarily a career switch, but it was just more so like a career clarity. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. I want to be more honed in on like strategy or like equity in the workplace and things like that. So.
Okay. And what do you do for fun?
Oh, it's a great question. I mean, I'm sure you can resonate this with, but like working in school, like fun is a premium. I think I'm a big hiker, so like I love being outdoors and honestly just doing anything. I just learned how to ride a bike like 3 weeks ago. Yeah, 34 years old, learning how to ride a bike. But I'm loving it. Like, and so that's something I'm excited to do more in the future.
Do you wear a helmet and knee pads?
I plead the fifth.
Okay.
Don't tell City Bike.
Cool. So we talked about a lot of things. You originally Pennsylvania, was always smartest kid in the class. Went to Uzbekistan or whatever the stand. You went someplace with a stand in it. you're on the front lines of helping young people. That's amazing. Just learning to ride a bike. That's a little strange. That's a little weird. But what did we leave out? Did we leave anything out? Is there anything that's important to you? We spent some time on co-op, which is important to you. But what did we miss?
Huh. I don't know much. I mean, I like to think. Sorry, I like to think I know much. I don't know if we left out much. Yeah, I mean, no, I think like honestly, I think the thing I would just say is like, and this is for anyone that's out there like listening, like especially like I think about like my experience in co-op and what we do, but it's just like gotta keep pushing and gotta keep like fighting for yourself and like advocating for yourself. And we talked about like it's tough out there for a lot of people that are transitioning from like college to career and don't have that background. And I know that's where both of our organizations really step in, is like supporting with that mentorship, supporting with that skills building. And so yeah, like I think just like reiterating that just gotta keep on keeping on.
Now, is that your advice or is that advice you were given?
I'm gonna say that's probably my advice. Okay. But I'm sure maybe I was given it at some point.
So what's the best advice you were given?
I mean, maybe that person that told me to not work at that I had a master's and I shouldn't work at Barnes & Noble anymore.
Do you remember her name? You remember her first name?
Well, her name was Sharon, and her maiden name was Barry. And so, like, that's where we had her maiden name was my last name. So like, that was where our connection started. But yeah, I think that's probably like some of the best. Yeah, like I think that's like the best piece of advice is just, I think like, the people that came at that right moment and gave me that feedback of like, go abroad, don't settle. You don't get that haircut. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know about that one. Don't wear zip away pants anymore. Like the orange zip away pants. Like that was a good one. But yeah, I think like that's the advice that really sticks out with me. Is like when I was at those critical junctures of my life, like who said what to me that like helped me make that transformative change.
Nice. Well, big ups to Sharon for being there at the right moment in time and recognizing something in you. But yeah, Andrew Berry. Berry, what's the origin of that? What's the origin of the last name?
Good question. Yeah, good question. I think maybe French, but every nickname under the sun that you can give with Barry, I've probably heard it. So
okay. Well, we learned quite a bit about you. It's clear that your heart and your efforts are in the right place. And that's all we could ask for, right? That's all we could ask for. That's what life is all about, paying it forward. And I was telling someone about how much fun I'm having now, how much fun I have as a result of working for or with City Tutors. I have fun being around people that I didn't know were so incredible, so amazing. You can't know until you don't know what you don't know. You can't know what you don't know. But it's people like you that really drive the machine, that push the engine forward, and I respect that and I admire that and I thank you